Hi, it's Kaya, and today we are going to be doing a Shop My Stash video, and I wanted to do a Shop My Stash focused on some indie products, specifically because, as many people have heard, Amicole is going out of business, and I personally never got to try Amicole just because I am in my era of having a whole bunch of makeup and really trying to focus on finishing the makeup that I have or decluttering things that I realize I don't like. So buying new makeup over the past few years just has not been as much of a priority for me, and the main new makeup that I have are things that have been sent to me, so I didn't get a chance to try that, but a lot of people loved them and the closure kind of rocked them to their core, and they wanted to kind of show more support to Black owned brands and indie brands and such. And I've definitely done quite a few videos on indie brands, Black owned brands, Asian owned brands. Like, I am someone who really likes to champion diversity where I can, so I can definitely link some of the other videos that I've done on different brands of different identities, but I just kind of wanted to do some indie brands and indie products that I haven't really used in a while or that are a little bit newer, and this is the look that I came up with. So if you are interested to see how I achieved this look and what products I used to achieve this look, then just keep on watching. As usual, eyes are primed, but I actually have been enjoying doing my brows after my foundation with them being blonde because it helps get all of the extra gunked up foundation, and I know I need to re-dye them. They're ready to get re-dyed. I feel like my eyebrow hair just grows in super quickly, but anyway, this is what we're working with. Again, I like to do it afterwards. Eyes are primed, and I think today what I want to use as my eyeshadow, because I've never really used this, it is the Sydney Grace liquid eyeshadow in, what is the shade? I don't know, I think. And I had a friend on Instagram that I made send this to me quite a while ago, honestly, and I think I've used it once or twice, but I haven't used it anytime recently, so I am going to use this on my eyes. And I honestly don't have a lot of single eyeshadows and not a lot of single like matte eyeshadows, especially not indie ones, so I'm probably just going to use my Project Pan one. It's like I could go and dip into one of my indie brand palettes, but that's a lot of work. They're all down there. I'd have to bend down. That just feels like a lot, especially since I just want to use the one shadow. So where is my blending brush? Just gonna take it. As you see, it's crumbling. We're honestly almost due for another Project Pan update. And as usual, I am just going to put this all over my eye and blend it up to the crease. Okay, and then I'm gonna take the Sydney Grace Cosmetic Shadow, and it looks to be a nice bronzy, my shade or my eyelid, but better, but also shimmery type of shade. So I'm gonna put a little bit on my palette. That is the size of the dot that I made, and then I'm going to take just a, what do you call it, a shader brush, and pick that up. With cream or liquid shadows like this, I like to kind of stipple my brush into it because I feel like that gives a better even cover instead of it getting like a whole bunch of the shade all in one spot. This is definitely an antique bronze, but it kind of seems to have some almost golden but olivey undertones to it. Very interesting shade. I don't know if it's just that putting the orange shadow underneath it is making it seem a little bit more yellow gold, or, you know, olivey yellow gold than just like a light golden shimmer. I'm putting a little bit more, but it's definitely giving a more antique bronze type of shade. So I might actually dip into a palette that has maybe a more mustardy yellow brown. And see, that's why I should have just done it from the beginning. Me being lazy, trying to keep myself from bending down in my chair. And it's honestly not necessarily me being lazy. It is me, because sometimes when I bend down in my chair, I get like lightheaded, I guess, or the blood rushes to my head and it makes me have a headache, and then I have a headache for the rest of the day. You know, don't quite know what all that's about. I actually really like this shade, and I could see myself wearing it a lot in the fall time as, you know, just a one and done or all over the lid type of shade, maybe two and done rather. Okie dokie, the Melt Cosmetics Rust palette has this rubbish shade that I feel like has enough of a kind of yellowish tone to it, and if not, there's the shade Erode next to it. I actually had originally pulled out the Gemini palette. This is one of my favorite Melt Cosmetics palettes, but this shade actually leans a little bit more orange than I thought it did. I feel like compared especially to this more yellow shade, that this one just leans more orange, and then this one is more of a straight up cool tone. So yeah, I might need to bring this one out to do a 3 looks 1 palette just to familiarize myself with some of these again. So I just wiped off my blending brush and I'm going into the Rubbish shade, and I'm gonna overlay in my crease and kind of on the outer corner the shade that I put under it, the Dance the Tides. And it's probably gonna still show a little bit orangey through, but now I know for the future that I would prefer it to have more of this yellowy olivey hue to it. And then I'm going to go back at, ooh, I can smell my biscuit, please hold. I actually wanted a little bit more golden, so my biscuit is going to stay in the oven. Like I was saying, I'm just taking the bronze shade and kind of pulling it up into the crease a little bit, especially in this inner corner area. Especially if you have hooded lids or not a lot of lid space, this allows your bronzy or more metallic shade, or honestly whatever lid shade you have. Like if I were to do cut creases, I remember trying to do cut creases when I was a little bit newer to them back in, 2016, 2017 era makeup, and I disliked the way that they looked on me until I realized, hey, in order for it to not just disappear, like the cut in the crease to disappear, you're gonna have to do it a little bit higher up. And ever since I learned that, I have definitely bought shimmery shades up into the crease. I don't remember what major beauty blogger was the one who told us not to put shimmers in the crease. Shimmers in the crease are just fine. They look glam, they look fun. Again, gonna just diffuse the edges a little bit with my blending brush. I think I might want to put a little bit more like on the outer edge, especially over here. Yeah, there we go. Let's basically just put it over most of the lid. Let's get it shiny. Let's get metallic in here. I actually really like that. I feel like it's almost slightly grungy, but also really nice and sparkly. I like it. I do feel like it needs some eyeliner, and if I'm being honest, I don't have a lot of indie eyeliners. I have this Pixie one, but it's more of a champagne pinky shade, so I don't really feel like that's what we're going. I have some Urban Decay ones, but they're not indie. They're owned by L'Oreal. I do have my LA Girl one that I could use, but is LA Girl indie? I'll have to look up to see if they have a parent company of any sort. I don't think they do though. I don't know if people consider LA Girl indie though. Yeah, these other two that I have are a Pixie Nude liner and then an Urban Decay black one, so not necessarily what we're going for. I do have some Give Beauty liners in here. I don't know what's going on with Give Beauty, nor does anyone really, but they're brand new. I have this one that's purple, there's a sapphire color, there's a brown, and then a black, but none of these are colors that I don't already have open. Actually, there's 2 browns. It seems like a lighter brown and then a darker brown. Either way, it doesn't look like those are necessarily anything that are brand new or different than anything I already have open, and I would rather try to use up some of the products that I already have open than to open another thing and it start the timer of it drying out. So I'm gonna just go ahead and use the LA Girl brown liner. I feel like brown is nice and kind of subtle, whereas if I wanted to really grunge it up, I could do smoky black liner. If I wanted it to look more punky, I could do thick liquid liner. I definitely need to bring out this eyeshadow more. That's why I love doing Shop My Stash videos, because it always, again, reintroduces me to some products that I just haven't used in a while, especially since I focus so much on my Project Pan, which I love that I'm focusing so hard on my Project Pan products and getting things done, especially since I know that I'm likely not going to be, or not really likely, pretty much for sure I am not going to be in this apartment. I think I've talked about it in some of my other chatty get ready with me type of videos, that even if I wanted to renew my lease here, which I absolutely do not by any circumstance want to, but even if I wanted to, with how many issues I've had with the front office and the issues I've caused for the front office, like my review about this place has like 10,000 views. like the photos of roaches everywhere, 10,000 views. I have never had a Google review pop off that bad. So it's just kind of like getting the no responses and everything. It is just so much. I don't understand how people can't just simply do their job. I don't know why a response is so difficult. But again, luckily I have a paper trail of everything. I don't even know where that was going. But anyway, I honestly don't have a lot of concealers that I haven't used on my channel at this point. I feel like the only one that I have not used as concealer, honestly, maybe at all on this channel, to be honest, I've had it since my last channel existed. So, but it was like the tail end of the last channel, so not as bad. However, I don't remember liking this. I remember it not being my cup of tea, and I'm kind of interested to see if my thoughts have changed about it X many years later. We don't need to get into exactly how many. This is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Concealer, Hyaluronic Creamy Concealer. Again, pretty hyaluronic. Gosh, if y'all unsubscribe, I would understand, because that was such a corny humor. But if someone subscribed because of that, hey, you and me are like, anywho, I need to shut up. Oh, my biscuit might be a little overly golden. Anyway, this is the shade Medium Dark 120W, and it is a pretty light shade. So it is possibly something that I should test out to see like if I like it more so when I am a little bit lighter. But we're just going to actually, let's put it on my palette, because I feel like if I put it on my palette and absolutely hate it, that maybe I can mix it in with some other things. Honestly, even on my palette, kind of compared to some of my other concealers, specifically whatever this one was up here, I don't quite remember. It's honestly not that much lighter. So maybe, oh, it's actually picking up on the brush and it feels like it's gonna be super creamy. Let me just make sure to mix it up. And even though this says warm, I'll see what it looks like on the face. In the container, it does kind of look a little bit peachy. And see, that's the thing with concealers that are too bright sometimes. I know people really like the super bright under eye concealer, and maybe it's because I'm not doing bright under eye concealer along with, what is that called? The color corrector and all of that. But I just feel like it almost makes my under eyes look more pronounced. It doesn't look like that in the camera, so maybe it is literally just all in my head right now. And it's like, I know I'll be able to blend this. I know it's not that bad. I know it's not that off, but it's looking crazy to me. It is looking much more hydrating than I remember it being. It doesn't look quite as dry. So maybe at the time that I tried it, it was the powder I was using. I don't quite remember what powders I was using back then. It might have been that Kat Von D powder that I was trying to pan for the longest time. Did I finish that up this year or last year? I feel like because my project pan has kind of been rolling and having some of the same products that it's a little bit difficult for me to remember. That might have been last year though. Okay, sponge and some setting spray to see what we can do about this. And you know, maybe it's just me. Maybe I just am not a fan as much of the super bright under eye concealer. I don't know, but again, I feel like now it's showing up on camera a little bit more. I just feel as though the shadows of my eyes almost feel a little bit more pronounced. I also don't think it is absolutely loving my what is that called, sunscreen, which admittedly I liked the Bioma sunscreen. That's the one that I've been using. I liked it when I first started using it. The more that I've been using it with makeup products, when I first started using it, I was a little bit in my era, probably a little depressed coming out of like the spring. What do I want to use for foundation? Actually, I think I wanted to use this because I am, I believe, deep enough to use it. This is the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Luminous Makeup All Day Wear Broad Spectrum SPF Sunscreen, you know, what do you call it? It was in my project pan at one time and I was always just too deep to use this. So I feel like it's one that, again, outside of what I currently have in my project pan, I need to use it since it is one of those that is limited in the time of year that I can use it. But also this foundation is beautiful. This is the shade Nutmeg D2. The biggest issue I think with it, which I would say is the biggest issue with the line from Drew Barrymore or like the Flower Beauty line. Yeah, maybe a little orangey for me, but I feel like we can balance it out, especially when my skin is already deeper. Like I feel like looking at this side of my neck versus over here, it definitely looks a little bit closer. And it also could just be that concealer throwing me off. I don't feel like it's looking too bad now that I'm, you know, blending it together, but more than the formula, the shade is what I'm concerned with that concealer. So it's one that I might need to re-feature in a Shop My Stash later on in the year or even early next year, you know, when my skin is getting a bit lighter. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit more onto my forehead, just very lightly, since it is a different color. I don't like to do a lot of foundation on my forehead because I feel like that's what makes my makeup look super makeup-y and cakey. And honestly, I'm going over some of the parts of the concealer because I feel like I look a little crazy. Again, it could just be all in my head, but that's how I feel. Powder, Fenty Beauty, I wouldn't necessarily call being owned, who are they owned for? I think like they have a more parent company, so I wouldn't necessarily call them a complete indie. Glossier is kind of indie. I think Kosas is kind of indie, but this shade that I have, I don't know if it would, can I even get it open? It's like, there we go. It feels like it's a little bit, again, red. And since we're already running a little bit red and orange, I don't want to exacerbate that necessarily. CoverGirl is not indie. I didn't realize that I must be finishing up some of my powders like more, and I haven't really been buying a lot of them. I think for today, maybe we'll go with, because Milani is indie, right? I think they're their own company. The Milani Conceal Imperfect Blur Out powder. This is the translucent shade, which admittedly underneath my eyes might look a little scary. We're gonna have to give it a second because I do feel like it has a little bit of a white cast. It's definitely more of a lighter translucent color, and it might have like a slightly peachy tone to it. I haven't used this in pictures though, especially not flash pictures. I feel like I just don't take a lot of pictures of myself at this point. Videos, on video all the time. Pictures, not so much. I do also love the way that the finish of this is. It just makes you look like a doll, honestly, but it's not like too matte and flat looking. And then I'm gonna run a big brush over my face just to knock off any of the extra in case that is causing, oh my gosh, all of these cat hairs. Some makeup lover has to have come up with some type of contraption to keep brushes outside of it being like in a bag or some type, but like some type of carrier or thing that makes brushes so that, you know, they don't get the cat hair all over them. Oh my goodness. And then today I wanted to use this bronzer because I haven't used it in a while, and someone on the other app, the Clock app, actually asked me about them. It's the Phytosurgeons bronzers, and I do think they've been reformulated to be a little bit creamier than they were, I'm blurry, to be a little bit creamier than they were when I got the original launch of these. However, they've always been meant to be a little bit more of a formula that isn't going to pick up on your brush too densely. I'm going to use the shade Golden Twilight, which is shade 11 in particular today, just to demonstrate how even if it's a little bit deeper, and as you can see, mine again is old, it's a little bit dried up, but even with it being a little old and dried up, it still shows up on the face. The golden ones definitely have less of like a yellow golden tone to them, and I feel like they're a little bit more olivey, which might have been a little counterintuitive given my foundation being a little bit more on the red side today. But as you see, despite being able to like swirl it in my brush, it feels like you never pick up too much. And yeah, for people who are maybe in a rush with their makeup or want something that is going to impart a lot of pigment, it might be a little bit more tedious for them to like go back and forth in the product multiple times. But as someone who can have a little bit of a heavy hand with bronzer and blush and honestly just complexion products in general, I actually enjoy that the formula is a little stiffer. Again, I haven't tried the like most updated formula of it, and these are obviously a few years old now. I want to say they came out either at the beginning, I don't think I was in this apartment, either that or they came out like right after I moved into this apartment, which would have been, you know, 3 years ago now. I do feel like the golden ones especially most mimic a natural kind of shadow for me without being too cool toned. I'm gonna go ahead and do brows. The only brow product I currently have is the e.l.f. brow laminating gel. However, I don't know, e.l.f. is independent, like they technically started from the ground up, but like now they're kind of their own conglomerate. They're starting to buy up other brands and stuff. Definitely interesting to see coming from someone who was there when e.l.f. literally was $1 to $3. The girls who remember the shimmering facial whip, you get me again. Okay, and then with blush today, what do I want to do with blush? I think I'm going to use this Cover FX. I think they're a pretty much, you know, indie brand. And honestly, I feel like I have not heard much noise or motion from them in a while. This is their monochromatic blush duo in the shade Spice Cinnamon. And again, the 2016 beauty girls know if you have this, if you were here for this era, both the blushes and the bronzers, like everyone had these, everyone wanted these. I remember the day that I was able to start working and affording makeup products, like higher end makeup products, and started buying them, and I bought this and it just felt like such a I'm legit now. There are so many of those moments. I could do a whole video of beauty products that I've purchased that made me feel like a beauty blogger or like I was for real legit. But I'm gonna use this today. I feel like it's a pretty shade, and again, I don't feel like we hear much commotion from them anymore. I think at one point they had discontinued a lot of their more hero products, and then they got pulled out of Ulta, I'm pretty sure, or they, you know, left Ulta in some capacity. I think they were also in Sephora. I want to say at the height of everything, they were in both Ulta and Sephora, but there were certain products you could only find at one or the other. That Ulta, like they both do that where it's an exclusive. Some products you can find at both, but there's others that are exclusive to that specific retailer. So they had that going on. I've always been a little bit more of an Ulta girl, so I want to say that I purchased this from Ulta and that like certain shades were available only at Ulta versus other shades being available at Sephora. But at some point they were just not in Sephora anymore. Okay, highlight. I'm gonna do Nabla skin glazing because I took this out to use a while ago when I was switching out and around all of my makeup, and I have yet to really use it, and it's a really pretty highlight shade. And since we're already kind of talking about 2016 makeup, this is definitely a little bit more, I don't know if you can tell unless I get really close up, but it definitely has like more of a noticeable sparkle on it, but I don't feel like it makes my skin look textured at all. But again, the girls who were there, we were there. I also feel like it ties in nicely with the sparkle on the eyes. But as I was saying, Cover FX just ended up getting pulled from both Ulta and Sephora kind of, I want to say it was around 2020. I feel like there's so many brands that were really popular at the height of, again, the beauty community, cut crease for any occasion. I'm gonna use my setting spray. I'm almost done with this Charlotte Tilbury one. I have 2 other setting sprays though, so I won't be repurchasing it anytime soon, including one of the setting sprays being the now discontinued version of the Urban Decay All Nighter. So I am a little bit interested. If you guys want to see it, I can be like, oh, beauty influencer business expense getting the new formula whenever it comes out with that. If Urban Decay doesn't send it to me, because they actually sent me this one along with some of their highlighters, so you never know, maybe they'll be checking for me and they'll send it. But I am kind of interested to compare compare it with the old Scandinavia formula. So if that's something you want to see, you'll definitely have to let me know. Leave a comment. I forgot about faux freckles, and since I'm wearing a black shirt, I can just use these freckles from, what is this, Pseudo Labs. This is the shade 3, and I've been mainly using the shade 3 to try to finish it up because I don't like this shade as much as shade 2. And it's not a bad product or a bad shade at all. I just like a little bit warmer of a, you know, freckle mole situation going on. And sometimes I'll even, when I am wearing this one, I'll end up putting both of them. And I heard, I don't know how true this is, but I was seeing this, it was an article, I don't know if they're like a reputable necessarily source for this, but they were talking about the Ami Collet closure, which kind of inspired me to do this video to start with, just on, you know, indie brands. I also did a video over on the short form app about some of my favorite indie brands. I feel like I went a little bit overboard on the moles today. It's fine. I feel like it, or not even moles, it's freckles. I feel like it's giving me, well, why not just go all in, all over the face if we're already here? There's this really gorgeous girl on TikTok. She has like blonde hair, blonde eye, like everything, and she has all of these freckles all over her face, and she's constantly being told, especially by men on her platform, like, oh, don't cover up with makeup, you don't need to. And even when she's not wearing any makeup, but I, not in that type of way, like, don't cover up, beautiful. Honestly, her freckles are so beautiful. Freckles are always something that I've found really beautiful. I could even do more, like, to give that look I need to do even more, but honestly, I don't mind it. Okay, mascara, not really interesting. I only really have like 1 or 2 mascaras at this point, and I'm trying to finish this one up, so I'll finish it or use it to finish it. It's the Give Beauty one. And then for lips, I wanted to use the Bright Brine from Phytosurgeons. I just feel like this eye look would look really nice with a nice French girl lip. And this is like my perfect French girl red lip. Almost gives that blotted, smudgy look. Not too warm, not too cool. Can wear it without a lip liner. I am gonna add a little bit of brown lip liner because I like the way that it looks with some brown lip liner too. Just like defining the edges of my lips, especially since I have that double lip line situation going on. I still haven't found the way to most effectively line my lips with it, because sometimes I feel like the overlining just feels over the top for me and looks clownish, but then when I don't line enough, I feel like I look crazy. So just kind of the catch-22. I feel like I can go a little bit more ham with my lower lip just because it, you know, kind of protrudes and pouts down. But if it didn't, it looks a mess under there. Realistically. Anyway, this is the look. I really like how it turned out. I think it's really pretty and kind of, you know, just summery bronzy, but also I could see myself wearing this in fall. It gives summery bronzy, but also fall grungy. I feel like it's one, depending on how I do the eyeliner and the lips and the rest of my face, I could really make this look transform and morph for pretty much anything. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you're staying safe and healthy wherever you are when you're watching this, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.